Testing, testing. Gotta get this camera angle right. Can you all see me? So if anyone can give me a thumbs up in the comments or something to say that they can see me, I'd really appreciate that, because I've had a few technical issues. Some of you saw this morning. So if anyone can write a little comment and just hit return, that would be great. And then, well, I can see there's some thumbs up there. Brilliant. Okay. So in a moment, we're going to start this practice, this home practice. And the whole idea about this was really to share my practice with you, to give those students that study with me a chance to put together some of the poses that we've been doing during the weekly sessions. Hi, good morning. And that means that, you know, when you are being taught all these poses and learning from your teachers, really it's the home practice that kind of percolates all of that knowledge through. So this is a live session. It's a guided practice, which means that I'm not giving you any teaching tips. I'm not teaching the class. I'm simply going through a time sequence. So if you're not familiar with any of the poses, please don't push yourself. And the idea is that you obviously get the sequence before the session, so that if you're not familiar with anything, you can join a class or practice. And if you've got any questions, I won't be looking at the comments throughout if there are any, but please get in touch afterwards. And we're going to start in a few seconds. I'm just going to go and sit over there and set up. And I'm going to check my camera angles and make sure you can see me. Okay. So I'm going to start with a few moments of quiet. We won't do a chant, but we will be doing a chant at the end, or I'll be doing a chant at the end. And I've posted the words up there in the comments so that you can see that. I can't respond to any technical music on. I've left the ambience here completely quiet because I figured you'd want to have your own sounds at home if you want to practice with music, or wherever you're practicing in the world. Let's start. So I'm just going to start with a few moments of quiet, and then I'll begin the sequence. So the first pose is Upavistha Konasana. I'm going to time this one, as it says, for 3 minutes. I've got my timer device here. When you hear the little birdie sound, that's the start of the timer. When you hear the gong, that's the end of the timer. We'll either change size or change position to the next pose. And it goes without saying that if you need to come out before the timer, please don't strain yourself. And for seated poses, use the wall behind you if you need it. So you have just under half a minute now. Okay. So the second one is Baddha Konasana, and I'm going to take some extra height for me. And I'm also going to take a belt so that I can hold the feet. And again, I think this one is, yes, 3 minutes for this one. And this whole sequence is based on the work we've been doing on, some of the work we've been doing on recuperative poses, but also this particular sequence is very good for menstruation. And on an energetic level, it supports the nervous system, the nerves, and restores emotional stability. So just over a minute to go. Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. And because this is a quieter practice, it's a good idea to also, while you're there, focus on your breathing as well. See that it's soft and smooth and rhythmic. And then release, and we're doing going to leave Supta Swastikasana next. Now, Supta Swastikasana over a support. So I'm going to take bolster support. You can use blanket support, but the support is for the trunk and the head. Anyone with lower back problems, if your bolster is very high, you may need to sit on a lift so that the angle isn't quite so acute. And we're going to go for 3 minutes each side. If you've got hip issues, if your knees are up, don't forget you put supports under your thighs, like a folded blanket under each leg. And in this one, I'm going to take the arms over, actually. So just watch. I'll be taking the arms in this position first, and then folding the elbows. And then when we change the legs, I'll change the cross of the elbows. So when the timer goes, you can, even without sitting up, you can change the cross of the legs. And with all these poses, and especially as you're on your own practicing now, making sure that you're not in any discomfort, but knowing the difference between discomfort and intensity of extension or opening, releasing. Using the exhalation to complete surrender into your support. And then you can go ahead and change the cross of the legs. And once you've changed the cross of the legs, then change the cross of the arms. But it's a really good idea to extend the arms first. And then you hold the other elbow first. And sometimes it takes a little time to settle onto that second side. If the shoulders are tired, then don't endure, but bring the arms back by your sides and relax the arms. Make sure that you're really allowing the body to release deep into the pelvic organs, abdomen, throat and mouth. I'm going to bring my arms down just to rest for the last few seconds. And come up. So the next pose we have is Supta Konasana on your sheet. Now, some of you, I think, will know this pose very well. And maybe some of you don't, for whatever reason. But if you don't have a belt and you don't know how to use the belt, you need to block your feet in at the wall so that you don't have to sort of hold your legs up. But I'm hoping most of you know this pose. It's one of the most beneficial poses for the groins, for the abdomen, for the reproductive organs, for the nervous system. So I'm just going to simply show my setup. And I'm going to take some support for my legs today so I can really let go. Now we've got this pose 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So it's a good timing to have because the longer you stay, the deeper you go. But that's why it's really important to have the right supports, because if you're staying for 5 minutes and you're struggling, it's not going to be very restful. So make sure that if you haven't got a belt, if you don't know how to use a belt, please don't tie yourself up without knowing how. But you can brace your toes. You can fan out your toes and put them against the wall and then move your buttocks towards your heels. And then you've got a nice support there. And if you're in any way stiff in the groins or you just want to support the legs, put the support under the outer thighs. So I've set up the timer. That's started now. And I'm going to go back into Supta Konasana. Making sure my blanket is supporting my head so that the face feels like it's looking down towards the chest, not throwing back like that. So you can take the skull back, turning the thighs from inside out, and then I'm going to take the arms in the same way, tucking the shoulders under, simply releasing the arms down, but of course you can use a different hold with the arms over if you wish to. And sometimes we use 2 belts in this pose, one around each thigh and shin. Sometimes we put the feet up on a block. Sometimes we have the buttocks on a lift. Pregnancy, we often have a wooden plank behind the chest to stop the nausea and the acid reflux coming. Many different ways to support many different types of situations. But for today, just keep it simple. Keep it within the boundaries of your own knowledge and practice. And it has to be said that really home practice gives you the fruits of the efforts that you make turning up to class, gives you insights, self-knowledge, realizations, and it's really an important part of your evolving practice of yoga. If you want to get good at anything, it's not just about turning up to lectures or class, it's also putting that knowledge into practice. If you've had your arms folded, change the cross of the fold. And at any point, if you feel uncomfortable in the groins, if it's too much, you can just release your feet out of the belt and stretch your legs straight. Slowly come up from there. 5 minutes just doesn't seem long enough in that pose. Okay, so we're going to do now Adho Mukha Swastikasana. Now, Adho Mukha always means forward facing. To switch that timer off. I think we've got 3 minutes each side on this. So it's really important in this pose to have a good support, especially those of you with the lower back and hip issues. I would suggest that for these forward bending poses, you consider getting a chair. When we come to do, I'm just having a look now, when we come to do the forward bends, you might be better off with a chair. Otherwise, we're going to go forwards onto a lift. I'm going to go on quite a high lift, and then I can always take elements of that lift out. So Swastikasana is the cross-leg pose that we sat at the beginning, and I'm going to take a cross shape like that so I can rest my elbows. I'm just changing that timer back to 3 minutes. I need to see if that's right first. So I'm going to go forwards, yes, and then I'm going to fold the elbows. So very soft. It's a very rounded forward bend. We're not trying to, reach the floor unless you have that lovely flexibility in the hips where you can go all the way to the floor. So I'm going to put the timer on for 3 minutes, and then when it goes off, we'll sit up and change the cross. But otherwise, if you need a chair, if you need to be this high, use a chair or even to the sofa or your bed. Okay? All right. So we're going to come up and change the cross of the legs. So because this might be your less familiar side, give yourself a moment to adjust. And if you had your elbows folded, try to remember to change the fold, so you hold the other elbow first. So on this side, I feel like I need a little bit more support on that hip, that little pesky niggle. That's better. Much better. And you kind of get to know that there are some things you can tolerate and override, and other things that need a little bit of adjustment, so that you can support the body in a longer hold. All right, and then we're releasing from Adho Mukha Swastikasana. Now, I'm going to skip Adho Mukha Virasana and go straight to Janu Sirsasana, forward bend. And Janu Sirsasana, forward bend, again, you can use the chair for this. I'm going to show with the bolster. And we're going to hold each side for 3 minutes. They do recommend that you do this 3 times for 3 minutes each side. We're not going to do that in today's practice, but we will hold it for 3 minutes each side. So I'm going to take my right leg first. And then I think probably bolster support would be good for me today, but I'm taking extra supports nearby just in case I'm having a stiff day, which happens. It's a bit colder today. It's earlier in the morning. All right, so we'll start. And it goes without saying that anyone with herniated discs in the lower back particularly, you should be on a much higher lift. You shouldn't hold this in an extreme forward bend for very long, but use a chair or even sit up with the back concave like that. That's something I meant to say at the beginning, but hopefully, because you're people who practice, you already are aware of your conditions. Very important in forward bends also to keep the belly very soft and not to pull the belly towards the spine. We're going to change legs. And do take care of your knees. Make sure they're supported when you go forwards, and when your knees are high, remember you sit on a much higher lift, and don't force your knees into an unnatural feeling. Okay. So Upavistha Konasana forwards now. So that's the wide angle pose that we sat in at the beginning, the very first pose after the Swastikasana. So let me turn around and face you. So again, it's this wide leg pose. And if you have your chair, put your chair here in front and then go forwards to the chair. Or a really nice thing to do with this is to put your feet, if you've got a wide enough sofa, to put your feet against the sofa and then lean on the sofa that way. I think I suggested that earlier in the week. So I'm going to go forwards, hopefully, to a bolster or two, probably. Some of you might go to the floor. If that's the case, that's your support. The floor is your support. But again, don't push yourself forwards. Instead, you fold forwards and rest accordingly. Now, how many minutes do they recommend for this one? 3 minutes. Okay, so we'll take 3 minutes on this one. I'm just keeping an eye on the time because this looks like it's going to take a little bit longer than an hour. Not very much longer than an hour. So, so when you go forwards in this pose, you can support the chest or you can support just the head. Support the arms on the same level as the head is a good idea because then you won't have this sort of dragging sensation. Okay, so Upavistha Konasana forwards. And then come up. And now we've got Parivrtta. So with Parivrtta, they suggested 2 minutes each side. And you do need really to have a support. If you're using the chair, you can simply move the chair over. If you're at the sofa and you don't have any more supports, then don't worry, you can just turn to the side and sit up. So I'm going to turn actually to my left side first because as I'm facing you, then it will be mirrored on your right, I think. I might be wrong, but anyway, I'm going to my left first, but you can go to your right first. Let me just change this timer so it's not quite so long. And change. And if you had your elbows folded, you could maybe change the cross of the elbows if you can remember. Okay, and you can come up now. I've got a choice because we've got the cross bolsters, which is shown in the diagram, and I've put on the sheet cross bolsters or chair back arch or Viparita Dandasana, but I don't expect many of us have a Viparita Dandasana bench. I do have one, but I'm not going to demonstrate that. So I'm actually going to do the chair back arch. If you don't have a yoga chair, you can do, and you don't have two bolsters, you can do something like this. Let me show you first. So you put something across the mat like that. So It goes across that way, all right? And then either with your legs crossed, or you can have the legs straight. Then you've got your back curving over like that, all right? And it's not under your lumbar, remember. So although I said I wasn't going to teach, this is something which sometimes people forget. And you take the head back, so the back of the skull is on the floor, not the crown, okay, the back of the head, but not the shoulders either. So it's a back arch. And then you extend the arms over and you fold the elbows like that, all right? And if that's problematic, you can try doing the pose with your legs extended, or you're going to lie with your legs up the wall, just very simple. Okay, and don't do that if it's hurting your back or you're not sure what you're doing. I'm going to do chair back arch, okay, because that's the picture that I put up of chair back arch, chair Parivrtta Konasana. And I'm going to do probably with my legs straight at some point, but I might keep my legs bent. Yes. Okay. So while you're getting yourselves ready, I'll get myself ready. And I think actually I'm going to do without the blanket today. And you can have the head supported for this as well. So it's chair Parivrtta Konasana. So whichever one you're doing, I think the time is for 5, yes, but I'm going to put the timer on for about, let's say, 3 minutes, I think, for this, because I'd really like us to do Setu Bandha and then a nice long Shavasana. So that will just take us to 11 or something like that. So just 5 or 7 minutes over the hour. So hopefully you're all ready. Need a little bit more support for my head. After forward bend, sometimes the back can be a little bit, it's been going the other way, so it can take a little while. That's better. And I'm going to keep my legs bent for this shorter. Normally I'd hold this pose for about 5, sometimes 7 minutes. I'm not going to straighten my legs today, but if you want to straighten your legs, you can. And I'm just really focusing on letting that upper back open. So my elbows are very heavy. I'm holding here next to my hips, so my elbows can kind of drop down and make that action in the back chest, to lift the back chest. And trying desperately not to let my right foot turn out. It always turns out. So I have to control that. And yes, I'm going inwards now because I'm feeling the effects of the pose, so I'll stop talking. And obviously, if you have your legs crossed, if you're doing if you're doing back arch over the bolster with your legs crossed, then change the cross of the legs. And carefully come out of there. And just sit for a moment. And then we'll take Setu Bandha next. Setu Bandha is bridge pose. Now you might find that you start to cool down a bit, so make sure that you're warm enough. So the picture shows a fully supported Setu Bandha with the feet on the same level as the bolster. So you can use a brick, you can use blocks or another bolster. And hopefully you can see, yes, you can see it all there. So I'm going to put, because the 2 blocks is about the same height as a bolster, so I'm going to put 2 blocks against the wall. It also shows that the legs are belted. And if you have a very high bolster and you're a short person, or you have a short drop, you might want to put a blanket here as well. Okay, but you know, I'm just going to put a blanket for a bit of comfort and warmth there. Hopefully I've got my bolster in the right place. But when I lie back, I've got a feeling it's a little bit too far from the wall. I'm going to put the belt around my thighs, and it's on the midpoint of the thigh, and the buckle is in the middle. Just a little bit of, it's not too tight, it's really just to stop the thighs from rolling out. I'm going to set our timer for 5 minutes. Yes. And then the shoulders, don't forget, are on the floor. Oh, I was right. Let's bring that back a little bit. Yes. And then feet pressing into something so that the legs feel really nice and grounded. And the belt, as well as giving that support to the thighs, also gives a touch sensation to remind you to press the thighs down and tucking the shoulders under. Don't bring your arms over your head for this one, because that flattens, it flattens the curve, which is something we want to happen, but not in the chest, in other areas. So many of you that practice this pose, that get those niggles in your lower back, you know that this curving action is so important. The extension of the legs is so important to lengthen the space of the lower back and to stop that cramping from happening. But sometimes, you have to sort of explore this pose and stay. And very often that cramping will start to disappear within the pose if you can manage to work through it. But I know some of you have back conditions where it's not acceptable to push through, so you hopefully should all know which side of the fence you're on in this pose. And of course you can ask questions afterwards and join the classes, and we will be exploring all of these poses and more as we practice together. Or ask your own teachers. Now I've chosen a very low lift today, really for simplicity, but if you wanted to go on a higher lift than this, of course, you can do that. Now when you come out, just slide backwards or roll off your lift, and we'll get ready for Shavasana. So make sure that you're warm enough. And if you need to put your legs on a bolster, so the backs of your knees can rest on the bolster and then lie back, do that. I'm actually going to put the weight on top instead. And I'm just going to make sure that when I lie back, my hands and my feet are not touching anything. And I'm going to have a blanket for the head. And actually, I'm going to take a second blanket. We did a little bit of this, I think, in pranayama this week, where we looked at ways to sort of create that sensory deprivation without using the hands, without using the Shamukhi Mudra. So I'll remind you of that now, because it's a really lovely way to quieten. I'm going to start the timer. So I take the neat edge of the blanket and I take it over the eyes. I bring it across the bridge of the nose and around the eyes, and then I smooth it like this. I slide the hands down to smooth the forehead and have the blanket around the ears, and then that creates a really nice kind of cocoon and soothing action. Then I tuck my shoulders under, then I release my arms and my legs. Then I'm in Shavasana. And try not to skip this pose. It is the most important part of the practice. It completes the practice. And is often the most difficult pose for us to adjust to. So just allow yourself, give yourself this time. Give yourself the space to let go. So just bring your hands onto your belly before you come up. And when you come out of Shavasana, remember to roll onto your side rather than just sitting straight up. When you come up, come into a seated pose. I'm going to chant the Shanti mantra, the teacher-student prayer. I left the words on the comment box, but don't worry if you don't know it. And I'm going to say the chant, sing or chant the chant, and then I'll say the translation as well, because it's such a beautiful prayer. So just sit up now and sit with your eyes closed. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Punaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we be protected together. May we enjoy the fruits of our action together. May we achieve strength together. May our knowledge be full of light. May we never have enmity for one another. Om, peace, peace, peace. Thanks very much for joining me this morning. If you want to come next time, I'll send the link out soon with the sequence and the timing. The timing might change a little bit because I have some other courses that I'm attending. But any questions, you can leave a comment, you can email or give me a ring. Thanks for watching. See you next time.